Most careers don't break at the beginning. They stall after onboarding ends. The structure fades, expectations blur, and suddenly the responsibility to grow becomes personal. At the same time, work is changing faster than ever. AI is reshaping roles, hybrid teams are redefining trust, and pressure is being managed, not always well. This series isn't about motivation, and it isn't about surviving hustle culture. It's about what actually helps individuals stay effective, adaptable, and mentally ready after the first 90 days. We'll explore how people create clarity when guidance is thin, how they build skills that matter in an AI-accelerated workplace, and how they protect their energy without disengaging. Because being mission-ready isn't a personality trait, it's a way of working, one that can be designed. This is Mission Ready, thriving as an individual in the age of AI. When work misses its mark, the default explanation is often capability. People assume someone doesn't understand, isn't engaged, or isn't performing at the right level. But in many modern work environments, capability isn't the problem. Strong performance can coexist with uncertainty. People can be skilled, motivated, and working hard, and still be unsure whether their effort is landing where it matters most. This happens when signal breaks down, when priorities shift quietly, when feedback travels indirectly, and when orientation is assumed instead of reinforced. In hybrid, matrixed, and monitored environments, this pattern is increasingly common. Effort continues, capability remains, but without reliable signal, work begins to drift, not because people are disengaged, but because they're not fully oriented. This episode starts there, not with fixing people, but with understanding how alignment actually works after onboarding ends. Modern organizations generate a constant stream of information: updates, announcements, dashboards, meetings. Most of it is accurate, much of it is necessary, but not all information is signal. Signal tells you what matters, where to focus, and whether your work is pointed in the right direction. Noise, by contrast, creates activity without orientation. This is why employees can feel busy, informed, and up to date, and still be unsure how to prioritize their effort. Formal communication often lags reality. By the time priorities are clarified, conditions have already shifted. In that environment, people don't lack information, they lack signal. Noise creates a subtle form of false confidence. It feels like clarity, but it doesn't reduce uncertainty. This episode focuses on learning how to distinguish signal from noise, because alignment depends on that distinction. Meetings are one of the most common tools organizations use to create alignment. People gather, topics are discussed, decisions are reviewed, and for a moment, it feels like clarity exists. But alignment rarely survives the meeting itself. It degrades in the space between conversations, where context fades, priorities compete, and real work resumes. This is why "we discussed it" is not the same as "we're aligned." Attendance creates exposure, not orientation. People can leave the same meeting with different interpretations of what matters most, what success looks like, and how their work should be prioritized. Meetings create activity. Alignment requires something else: reliable signal that persists when the meeting ends. Feedback doesn't move evenly through organizations. Some voices matter more at certain moments. Some signals travel faster. Others arrive too late to correct course. This is why listening to everyone equally does not always produce alignment. Meaningful feedback tends to come from a small number of key nodes, people who see outcomes early, influence decisions directly, or absorb risk before it becomes visible. Course correction often happens long before formal feedback cycles engage. By the time performance reviews or dashboards reflect a problem, the opportunity to adjust has usually passed. Organizational charts rarely reveal where signal actually originates. Titles describe authority, signal follows impact. This slide reframes alignment around who sees reality first, not who sits highest in the structure. Organizations are designed around formal structures, reporting lines, roles, titles. These structures define authority, accountability, and responsibility. But alignment doesn't move primarily through structure. It moves through informal networks, through who talks to whom, through who checks assumptions early, through where information actually flows when decisions are being shaped, not after they're finalized. This is why influence is rarely tied to title alone. Some people see consequences earlier, others translate intent into action, and some quietly shape direction without appearing on any chart. When informal networks are ignored, misalignment doesn't look dramatic. It looks like rework, delayed corrections, and capable employees missing the mark despite doing exactly what they were told. Understanding informal networks isn't about bypassing structure. It's about recognizing how alignment actually travels. Micromanagement is often treated as a leadership flaw. In reality, it's more often a signal of failure. When leaders don't trust that work is pointed in the right direction, they compensate with oversight, more check-ins, more approvals, more status updates. From the employee's perspective, this feels exhausting. From the leader's perspective, it feels necessary. Alignment changes that dynamic. When signal is clear, people don't need to be watched. They stay oriented on their own. Constant check-ins often indicate that the system is doing too little to provide reliable direction. Orientation reduces management load. Trust improves not because people are less capable, but because leaders no longer have to guess where effort is landing. Alignment doesn't remove accountability. It makes accountability lighter to carry. Alignment doesn't require constant feedback. In fact, too much feedback often creates more anxiety, not more clarity. What alignment actually requires is a small number of reliable reference points, anchors that hold when conditions change and conversations pause. One or two clear alignment points outperform dozens of updates. Reliable signals share a few traits. They persist over time, they connect directly to outcomes, and they reduce interpretation rather than multiplying it. When people know where to check their direction, they don't need constant reassurance. Anxiety drops, rework decreases, and managers spend less time correcting what could have been oriented earlier. Alignment stabilizes not through frequency, but through reliability. When alignment feels uncertain, people often seek reassurance, a quick check, a confirmation, just making sure. In the moment, reassurance feels responsible. It reduces immediate uncertainty and provides short-term comfort. But reassurance does not create orientation. Over time, it can actually increase misalignment. When people rely on reassurance instead of signal, they delay course correction rather than sharpen it. Capable people become hesitant, not because they lack confidence, but because direction keeps shifting with each check-in. Work slows, decisions wait, and small misalignments persist longer than they should. The cost isn't emotional, the cost is timing. Reassurance postpones clarity instead of anchoring it. Rework rarely announces itself. It doesn't show up as a missed deadline or a failed deliverable at first. It shows up quietly. Small corrections, minor adjustments, slight changes in direction that repeat over time. This is why misalignment wastes energy long before metrics move. People redo work without labeling it as rework. They adjust tone, reframe deliverables, revisit decisions that seem settled. Each instance feels reasonable. Together, they accumulate cost. Early signal prevents this. When orientation is clear early, course correction happens once, not repeatedly. Without that signal, work loops quietly until frustration rises and burnout follows. The damage isn't immediate, it's cumulative. Modern work environments offer more visibility than ever before. Status indicators, activity logs, monitoring tools. But visibility does not equal orientation. In hybrid and monitored environments, people can be seen without being guided. Proximity used to solve this problem. Being near decision makers made priorities easier to read. Today, presence is distributed and signal is thinner. Monitoring shows what is happening, not why it matters. Without reliable alignment points, employees compensate by guessing, overchecking, or waiting. Hybrid work doesn't reduce capability, it amplifies signal loss. Staying oriented now requires intentional signal design, not more visibility. Connection is often misunderstood. In many organizations, it's treated as reassurance, a way to confirm approval or reduce uncertainty. But reassurance isn't what keeps work aligned. Orientation does. Effective connection doesn't answer the question, am I doing this right? It answers a different question. Is my work pointed in the right direction? When connection provides orientation, people don't become dependent, they become autonomous. They make decisions faster, they correct course earlier, and they speak up sooner when something doesn't line up. This is where psychological safety actually comes from, not comfort, but clarity. When people understand how their work connects to outcomes and priorities, they don't need constant reassurance. They stay oriented on their own. Alignment is often treated as a personal responsibility. We assume some people are better at it, more attentive, more communicative, more adaptable. But alignment is not a personality trait, it's a system property. When signal is clear, orientation holds. When signal degrades, even capable people drift. This is why increasing communication volume rarely fixes misalignment. More messages don't create clarity, signal clarity does. This episode has shown that orientation matters more than reassurance, and that alignment stabilizes when people know where to check direction without asking repeatedly. Alignment protects energy, it reduces rework, it lowers anxiety, and it allows capability to land where it matters. The core shift is simple. Stop fixing people for system problems. Design signal so alignment can hold. Throughout this episode, we've looked at how alignment works when signal is clear, orientation holds, and feedback travels through the right channels. But even perfect signal does not guarantee action. People can see misalignment early and still hesitate to speak up. They can recognize drift and still wait. Not because they don't care, and not because they don't understand, but because acting on signal requires safety. Safety determines whether people surface concerns early, challenge assumptions, or correct course before rework accumulates. In the next episode, we'll examine psychological safety not as a cultural ideal, but as a system requirement, and why alignment depends on it just as much as signal does.